Just oh yes, it looks a little bit different, doesn't it? Yeah. Well, yeah, Ulysses. I've been kind of avoiding this chapter because it's so long. I don't even know where to start, But let's see. Maybe I'll read a little bit of it, and then we'll kind of do some. This chapter, I mean, it's a play. There's like directions. It's Joyce. It's pretty wild. Almost nothing in this chapter actually happens. Maybe we'll figure it out. Okay, so chapter 15, Circe, James Joyce. Definitely read this book. Check it out. Hope you're, following along with me. I was gonna have a friend help me read this because there's a couple characters here, so it'd be good to have like a few people uh, reading it. So it goes like this: Chapter Circe, the play. It's a long chapter. Some people would say, yeah, it goes up to about page 500. Some people would say, hey, split it up into two or three because it's like a long chapter. But I'm just gonna read a little bit of this because it give you a taste of what this chapter's like. The Mabbott Street entrance of Nighttown. Yeah, this chapter sometimes called Nighttown. People call it Nighttown. Where, but it's Nighttown. It's night, but there's still a bit of sun since it's like in the middle of summer, which stretches an uncobbled tram siding set with skulls and rocks, red and green, willow the wisps and danger signals, rows of grimy houses with gaping doors, rare lamps with rainbow fans, round rabaudies, halted ice gondolas, stunted men and women squabble. They grab wafers between which are wedged lumps of coral and copper snow. Sucking, they scatter slowly, children. The swan comb of the gondola, high reared, forges on through the murk, white and blue under a lighthouse, whistle call and answer. The call, wait, my love, I'll be with you. The answer, round behind the table, a deaf mute idiot with goggle eyes, his shapeless mouth dribbling, jerks past, shaking in St. Vitus dance, a chain of children's hands imprisons him. The children, Cathog, salute. The idiot lifts the palsy's left arm and gurgles, Gahoot. The children, where is the great light? The idiot, Gaha guest, gobbling. They release him. He jerks on. A pygmy woman swings on a rope slung between two railings, counting. A form sprawled against a dustbin and muffled by its arm and hat snores, groans, growling teeth, and snores again. On a step, a gnome totting among a rubbish tip crouches to shoulder a sack of rags and bones. A crone standing by with a smoky oil lamp rams her last bottle in the maw of his sack. He heaves his booty, tugs askew his peak cap, and hobbles off mutely. The crone makes back for her lair, swaying her lamp, a bandy child, a squat on the doorstep with a paper shuttlecock, crawls sidling after her in spurts, clutches her skirt, scrambles up. A drunken navy grips with both hands the railings of the area, lurching heavily. At a corner, two night watch in shoulder capes, their hands upon the staff holsters, loom tall. A plate crashes, a woman screams, a child wails, oaths of a man roar, mutter, cease. Figures wander, lurk, peer from the warrens. In a room lit by candlestruck and bottleneck, a slut combs out the tats from her hair of a scrofulous child. Good word. Sissy Caffrey's voice, still young, sings shrill from a lane. Sissy Caffrey. I gave it to Molly because she was jolly, the leg of a duck, the leg of a duck. Private car and private Compton, swagger sticks tight in their oxters as they march unsteadily, right about face, and burst together from their mouths a volleyed fart. Laughter of men from the lane, a hoarse virago retorts the virago. Signs on you, hairy arse. More power, the Canvan girl, Sissy Caffrey. More luck to me, Canvan, Coot Hill and Baturbot. She sings, I gave it to Nellie to stick in her belly, the leg of the duck, the leg of the duck. Private Car and Private Compton turn and counter retort their tunics, blood bright in a lamb glow, black sockets of caps on their blonde crop poles. Stephen Dedalus and Lynch passed through the crowd close to the redcoats. Private Compton jerks his finger, wave for the Parsons. Private Car turned and calls, what ho, Parsons? Her voice sings higher. She has it. She's got it. Whatever she put it, the leg of the duck. Stephen flourishing the ass plant in his left hand chants with joy. The android of Pascal time. Lynch, his jockey cap low on his brow, attends him. A sneer of discontent wrinkled his face. Stephen, vidi aquam ingrediente de templo all'extere dextro. Alleluia. The famished snaggle tusk of an elderly bod protrude from the doorway. The bod, her voice whispering, husky, shh, come here till I tell you. Maidenhead inside, shh. Stephen, Altius ali quantulum, e omnes a quos prevenit aqua ista. The bod spits in their trail, her jet of venom. Trinity Medicals, fallopian tube, all prick and no pence. Okay, let's stop right there. So, it's pretty psychedelic. It's pretty crazy. Just coming in there. And we're only, what we got? We got about 6 minutes in. Okay, so we'll stop there for a second. Let me see. Okay, so well, I was going to talk about a few things. Okay, so I in the description I left James Joyce's Women and the other clip, the actor reading the Leopold Bloom in the description. If you want to check that out, that's from the previous chapters. There's probably a Nighttown thing. I'm going to look for that. There's probably a reading of Nighttown or even a play. So yeah, Ulysses. When I was thinking about this before I was reading this, and a lot of guys, I mean, this is the height of modernism. You got like James Joyce, Proust, Thomas Mann, others, Nabokov, the big book, and you guys, and they're a little bit more that like they're almost like meta novels. They're and modernists kind of guys in the 70s I kind of think is retro modernist guys like Pynchon and Gilbert Sorrentino and William Gass and Robert Cooper were doing Joycean stuff in the 70s. I don't know. Modernism hadn't died. Those guys were still doing modernism. And the big book has kind of died out in the last 30 or so years. So whenever a lot of the big books, like David Foster Wallace or The Jerusalem by Alan Moore, I mean, I kind of see those as sort of bitter, kind of, just show-offy kind of novels. I like reading them, but, for the most people, they're just like, they're just like angry at the world type of books, like you can like you probably read a few of these type of books and stuff, and they don't, I mean, Joyce is fun, this is like, it's not long and difficult because he's just being like a jerk, Same thing with Sorrentino with Mulligan Stew. It's a fun book. Flann O'Brien, you read this chapter, it just kind of reminds me of the best of Sorrentino and Flann O'Brien, some of the other ones, and some of the Beckett, some of the early Beckett, I kind of, that has the, none of that kind of angry, like, guy working in his closet and I'll show these guys. I'll write a 1,000-page book. It just fucks with everybody. None of that. I mean, that's a lot of my problem with a lot of kind of guys that are trying to do Joycean books in the last 25, 30 years, like David Foster Wallace and maybe Roberto Bolano and stuff. I got to read some of these guys and like some of those big books I showed a few weeks ago, like some of that stuff. So, we're already 10 minutes in this, so let's get a little bit of a summary. So episode 15 takes place it takes the form of a play. It has stage directions and descriptions. The characters' names appear above the dialogue. Yeah, this book is a little weird. Like, I mean, the original copy I had, some of the typeset is just like all over the place. Like, like it's all like kind of awkward and it looks like that page looks weird. Yeah, so they're at the entrance of Nighttown, Dublin. Of course, Joyce knows a lot about Nighttown. It's like he's obviously been there quite a few number of times. And because like Joyce, when he was living in Paris and Trieste and Zurich, he would run into an Irish guy and he'd like grill him for details, like and just kind of write it into his book because he hadn't really. I guess he went back to London. I don't think he left Ireland in maybe 1904 and didn't go back for the last 40 years of his life. So whenever that's why he was friends with Beckett and some of these guys, because he would, grill them for details. What's Dublin like? Is that place still there? So Stephen, Daedalus, and Lynch go to a familiar brothel. The focus switches to Bloom. Bloom has attempted to follow Stephen and Lynch to Nighttown, but he lost them. He ducks into a pork butcher's to buy a late night snack. Bloom's always about the food, man. This whole novel. He avoids the drink, but he's into the food. Bloom immediately feels guilty about the expense, and a hallucination begins in which Bloom's parents, Molly and Gertie McDowell, confront Bloom about his various offenses. So we have like a court time scene here. And then next, Mrs. Breen appears again. She and Bloom briefly renew their old flirtation. Okay, in the dark corner, Bloom feeds his meat purchases to a hungry dog. Got to keep the love going. Got to pay it forward. And this act engenders another hallucination in which the two night watchmen question Bloom, who respond guiltily. Soon Bloom is on trial, accused of being a cuckold, an anarchist, a forger, a bigamist, and a bawd. Witnesses such as Miles Crawford, Philip Beaufoy, Patty Dignam in dog form appear. Mary Driscoll, the former housemaid to the Blooms, testified that Bloom once approached her for sex. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. The nightmare scene ends as Bloom is approached by prostitute Zoe Higgins. Zoe guesses that Bloom and Stephen, both in mourning, are together. She tells him that Stephen is inside. Zoe playfully steals Bloom's lucky potato from his pocket, then teases Bloom for lecturing on the ills of smoking. Another fantasy ensues in which Bloom smoking lecture escalates into a campaign speech. Soon Bloom is backed by Irish and Zionists, is coronated as the leader of a new blue Salem. The nationalist hallucination turns sour when Bloom is accused of being a libertine. Buck Mulligan steps forward and testifies about Bloom's sexual abnormalities, then pronounces Bloom a woman. Bloom gives birth to 8 children. Sorry. The hallucination ends with the reappearance of Zoe. Only a second of real time has passed since she last spoke. Zoe leads Bloom inside Bella Cohen's brothel, where Stephen and Lynch are socializing with prostitutes, Kitty and Flory. Stephen is pontificating and playing a piano. Flory misunderstands. Stephen assumes she's making an apocalyptic prophecy, an apocalyptic hallucination. Stephen ensues another hallucinatory sequence. Bloom begins with Blooms begins with arrival of Leopold Virag, Bloom's grandfather, who lectures Bloom about sex. When Bella Cohen herself enters the room, a long hallucination begins. Bella becomes Ballo, proceeding to master and violate a feminized Bloom while taunting him about past sins and Boylan's virility. And then Bloom dies here, and then he goes. He has a hallucination with an afterlife. Yeah, this kind of, I guess, like this kind of reminds me of kind of Jack Skelly writing too. Let's see. Bloom finds Bella Cohen standing before him again. Only seconds seem to have really passed since her entrance. Bloom gets his lucky potato back from Zoe. Bella demands payment from the men, and Stephen gives Bella more than enough money for all three of them. Bloom puts down some of his own money and returns Stephen's overpayment. Then takes control of all of Stephen's money since Stephen is drunk. Zoe reads Bloom's palm and pronounces him a henpecked husband. Another hallucination ensues involving Bloom watching Boylan and Molly have sex. Talk turns to Stephen's Parisian adventures and Stephen colorfully describing his escape from his enemies and father. Zoe dances. She's got the pianola. I guess it's automatic. It's like that was like a thing. The rotting ghost of Stephen's mother, rises from the floor. Stephen's horrified. He asks for confirmation that he did not cause her death. The ghost is non-committal in response. Speaking of God's mercy, and others notice that Stephen looks petrified. Bloom opens a window. Stephen crashes his walking stick into the chandelier. Bella calls the police, and Stephen runs out the door. Bloom follows him. Bloom catches up with Stephen, who is surrounded by the crowd and is haranguing British Army private car and unwanted British military presidents. And Stephen announces his own personal intent to mentally subvert both priest and king. Bloom tries to intervene. Carr, feeling his king insulted, threatens to punch Stephen. Edward VII, the citizen, the crumpy boy, and the old gummy granny, the personification of Ireland, appear to encourage the fight, though Stephen remains distasteful of violence. Lynch leaves. Stephen calls him Judas, the betrayer. Carr knocks Stephen out. The police arrive. Bloom spots Corny Kelleher, who is close to the police, and Ulysses helped with Simon's son. Keller satisfies the police and leaves. Alone in the street, Bloom bends over the barely conscious Stephen as an apparition of Rudy, Bloom's sons, appear. So not much happens in this episode, even though it's the longest. It doesn't seem like anybody's having sex except for like the bulk of the episode consists of hallucinations that actually take place in a second or two. The first half of the episode, we can distinguish the lengthy hallucinations as emerging from either Stephen's or Bloom's subconscious. That's Bloom's hallucination are persecutory in tone, focusing on sexual guilt. Stephen's hallucinations seem to emerge out of elements of his day, such as the interview with DZ, and involve Stephen's privately torturous interactions with authorities, specifically with ideas of God. Yet the distinctions between Stephen and Bloom's hallucinations are not sustainable. Stephen's hallucinations involve elements of Bloom's day that Stephen could not know about, and vice versa. Eventually, the apparitions begin to refer to earlier scenes and words unseen and unheard by both Stephen and Bloom. It is perhaps more accurate to view the hallucinations of Circe as emanating out of a subconscious of the individual characters, but at the subconscious of the novel itself. So, episode 15 serves to bring Stephen and Bloom together. He's followed them to Nighttown. In the final scenes, Stephen attempts to become intellectually and artistically independent through his rejection of priest and king and Ireland. Yet he is mainly depicted as having been abandoned by his mother, by his father, by Buck and Haynes, and by Lynch, the Judas. When Stephen is left knocked unconscious at the end of the episode with his belongings scattered around him, it is Bloom who is there to act as a symbolic father and pragmatic caretaker. This preliminary culmination of father-son union has the tone of not a cosmic convergence, but of a wish fulfillment for Bloom. A fact underscored by Bloom's final hallucination of his dead son, Rudy. Okay, so they come together. So see, I didn't really spend much time. Is there any questions? No. Okay, so that took me like 10 minutes to get. Whoa, it looked like this. Oh, okay, this thing fell down a little bit. Okay, so I'm going, what is going on here? Okay, it looks a little bit different. So we're in Ulysses. Yeah, maybe I should. I mean, let's see. I mean, this. I think this chapter has been parodied by a bunch of people, including myself. Let's see. Let's see if I can find some other place. But so here's Varag is showing up. Bloom. And the song. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Are you out of Mammoth? You're like someone I once knew. Out of it now, to himself. Clever. Like, yeah, I mean, Joyce is really going for it here. It's like, it just seems kind of, but it's sort of, I mean, it looks like it's like a mini play within the book. Like there's been a couple chapters, where he's focusing on music. He has the character, the citizen, narrating. What else? What else do we have? I'm trying to remember. So what came before this one? So yeah, that was like kind of Oxen of the Sun was pretty crazy with all the like in the hospital, it was pretty crazy. Just the development of language. This looks like that's out on the beach. What was that? Sirens. So, and Sirens was kind of like a 2-part chapter. It was kind of like 2 parts that didn't really go together. 12 is that's the citizen when they're in the bar. So that means that's 12. Yeah, that's, and 11 is the one, the musical one. What is that? 11, yeah, Bronze by Gold. Yeah, what is chapter 11? So 14 is Oxen in the Sun. Okay, so Oxen in the Sun is the one in the hospital. Not where it's like he parodies all the styles of the different authors. 13 is Nausicaa. That's the one with the double, the Gertie McDowell and Bloom on the beach. It's like 2 different parts. It's from her side, and it's like 12 is Cyclops. That's the citizen. This character comes from nowhere and just kind of, and then the musical one, Sirens. That's in a bar too. And then 10 is Wandering Rocks, right? And so the book has kind of gotten kind of crazy. It has, like, even before we get to the previous 11, 12, 13, 14, the previous 4 chapters were the Wandering Rocks is, like, my favorite chapter is chapter 9, the one in the library. What is that called? or he has this Shakespeare theory that's called the Scylla and Charybdis, and then Wandering Rocks is kind of like the gateway to the. So you have to the rest of the novel. By the time you get like 4 chapters of like pretty crazy Joycean writing, then you get to Circe, a whole chapter that's written in a play, 150 pages. It's almost like a fourth of the book here. And it's basically a hallucination. I mean, the only thing, they go to a brothel, they have a bunch of hallucinations about just like psychological stuff that's going on in their life. They hang out with a couple prostitutes, and Stephen Dallas creates a lot of violence, and Bloom and Stephen come together, and he's like the only one that takes care of him. Like all of his friends by this time have abandoned him. Like, so it's kind of, kind of giving her away. Like Stephen Dallas is a little kind of lost, like at the end of this book, but he didn't really. Yeah, I mean, we just, I guess Stephen's like the character that's standing in for Joyce, so he went back and wrote all these books or whatever and stuff. So yeah, so I would like to read more, and I like to make this longer, but this is like such a crazy chapter. Just kind of talking about it. It's more smooth sailings from then on, but I didn't even know how I was gonna read the chapter yourself. Just kind of take it up for the comic aspects. It's a little. Like the sensibility you see in Flann O'Brien and Gilbert Sorrentino mostly. So that's the end of the Circe episode. The next one's called Hermaeus. They go back home to Bloom's house, and then there's only 3 more chapters, and we get to Molly Bloom's Soliloquy is the final chapter. Okay, thanks for listening. That's it. We're coming to the end. It's almost the end of August. I got this done, and then we can get to the other books finally. But we'll have some other books, and they're going to be fun books too. We're not going to have any of those angry. Well, I don't know, because we're going to start in the earlier part of the 20th century. So, and we might dip into the 19th century. So, like a lot of these books that I'm talking about were written in the 70s, 80s, and 90s mainly, and even like up until today. Angry books by the writer who's just kind of writing books and upset that nobody really reads books anymore. They're just kind of. It's not surprising to me that David Foster Wallace killed himself. Because who is this guy writing for? Just college students. That's not right. Okay, take care. Thanks for all the attention and looks and likes and all that stuff. And we got a bunch of interviews this week, so look for my other channel and interviews with musicians and writers and all that stuff. Okay, take care.